the ideas of just a cover-up of what's really going on in the secret space program. I know from 5 different sources, independent of Dr. Basiago, I'll get it right, what he's talking about happens to be true. And these 5 men are unknown to each other. One of them's a former highest ranking special operations general, active duty, a member of MAGIC, 2 Green Berets who were in a space fleet, 1 a spy, and a full-scale spy, and another gentleman who is in the No Such Agency, NSA, who can verify pretty much everything that Dr. Basiago says. So, Andrew, share with people the importance of Mars, and let's just talk about Mars as the basis. Share your experience as a child and the whole secret space program that parallels what we've always known as the Saturn rocket program. Go ahead, sir.
Right. Well, as a child, I wasn't going to Mars, but I was a participant in DARPA's Project Pegasus, which was the U.S. time-space exploration program at the time of the emergence of different forms of time travel in the U.S. defense technical community. My late father was a project principal because he was one of the nation's experts in Tesla teleportation, having repeated Tesla's teleportation work when my father was an engineer at the Thomas A. Edison Research Laboratory in West Orange, New Jersey, where he was employed from 1956 to 64. So in the mid-1960s, 66, 67 time frame, when there was a decision made to launch a secret space program around different forms of quantum access resulting from time travel, my dad was brought in as one of the project principals. He was basically a defense community engineer with a classified clearance who had reporting requirements to the CIA, to the Navy, the Air Force, and other U.S. agencies. And my father brought me into those activities in 1968 when we went up to the old Curtiss Wright Aeronautical Company facility in Woodridge, New Jersey, and we jumped through a Tesla teleporter to the New Mexico State Capitol grounds in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Then, during my college years at UCLA, from 1980 to 84, I was brought in to the CIA's Mars Jump Room program. And in that capacity, during my training in 1980, I and several other participants were asked to analyze a 4-inch thick dossier of French intelligence documents, which revealed that American astronauts first went to Mars in 1964. So there has been an over 50-year cover-up of the fact that Mars has been the focus of not just remote study via satellites and rovers, but has been a place that American personnel have been sent to. I first went to Mars in July of 1981 from a space elevator located at a Hughes aircraft facility in El Segundo, California. Not their headquarters building, but another facility that Hughes owned and operated at 999 North Sepulveda in El Segundo, right south of the Los Angeles International Airport. And so I've been speaking out for a number of years now about my involvement in those 2 classified projects because I think the American people have a right to know the state of the art of what our civilization has developed technically, and also the true natural history of the cosmos that we inhabit, including the fact that not just the universe, but our own solar system is inhabited. We are not alone, even in our own solar system.
Given the fact that this is a well-known fact within the defense intelligence community and the entire new focus on Mars and even the teleportation of single photons and some of the headlines that are starting to make the news again, obviously that now they believe that there's life on Mars and the volcanic tunnels, that there's water on Mars, and everyone's interest in it. Do you think this is just their way of trying to bring everybody up to speed slowly but surely?
No, I don't follow that line of reasoning. I believe they're perpetuating a cover-up through creating a false picture of what's on Mars and what's not on Mars. Mars is an inhabited planet. Human beings from Earth were going there in antiquity during the High Egyptian civilization. My own organization that I founded, the Mars Anomaly Research Society, has proven that by showing the image that we found on Mars of an intaglio of the head of a pharaoh on a slab of rock or metal that the rover Spirit captured photographically on its 2012th day on Mars. There are several types of humanoid species on Mars. One group are the descendants of the humans from Earth who were going there in antiquity. Another are the original indigenous Martians. There are water deposits there. There is enough oxygen in the Martian atmosphere to produce blue skies on Mars. They've been concealing that by manipulating the color scheme of the images that are being sent back. Oxygen is a clear gas, hence it refracts blue, just as it does in our atmosphere. Humans from Earth can breathe the Martian atmosphere. It's very thin. It's about what the oxygen levels are at 12,000 feet on Earth, but one can actually survive and function on Mars even without a respirator. I did so myself in approximately 40 round trips there between July of 1981 and May of 1984 when I was active in the program. We believe there are around 1,500 visitors going to Mars during that time period. I don't know, because I haven't been in the program for 30 years, how many Earthlings are there today, but the estimates go as high as 500,000. So I believe these incremental releases of information by NASA and other agencies are not so much the controlled release of information or an acclimation program, but are an active disinformation program to conceal the fact that Mars is inhabited. We were going there in antiquity. We've been sending American astronauts there since 1964, and there is an active colonization program underway.
The Russians, Chinese, everyone has decided that Mars is in their focus. Obviously, you and I spoke yesterday at length, and you encountered some Russian, what would we call them, portal knots? What do you call guys who have been there?
Well, recently I've been calling the Mars jumpers astronauts, because really we were, except we've been denied the dignity of being referred to as such, because of course there were never Kodak Ektachrome photographic portraits of us taken in these heroic white spacesuits. I've also been popularizing the term chrononaut, because what really secretly emerged, when we talk about the secret space program, we're really talking about the emergence of different modalities of time travel. So I think it's more accurate to call us chrononauts, but at the same time I'm trying to apply the term astronaut to the cadres that I were part of, because we deserve to be included among the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo astronauts. In fact, we were doing more difficult things. We were going farther distances more often with greater levels of danger than the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo astronauts, often at half the age of the official overt astronaut corps. And so I really have been using both of those terms, but I guess my preferred term is chrononaut. Now, in terms of the Soviet-Russian presence, we crossed paths on one jump to Mars with a group of Soviets, and we also had I had several personal encounters with a British team, not just on one jump, but on multiple jumps. So we know that the United States, the United Kingdom, and the former Soviet Union were sending astronauts, if you will, or chrononauts, if you want to be more accurate, in the early 1980s to the Red Planet, and we were returning them safely to the Earth.
It's hard for people to understand. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, Andrew is a member of Mensa, and again, I want to share something, Doug and Joe, why this is so difficult for people to understand, but it's so important. If you tried to talk about this, and Andrew, you know this, for the past however many years you've been talking about it, you just can't get past the, if you will, the official party line. But yet now, with all of the, and there is breaking news on teleportation and a new understanding of quantum physics, the idea is that what could not be received a decade ago is now seemingly, in my opinion, it's God's timing to reveal the, if you will, the secrets that have been hidden and that have been covered up by our government. Did you ever personally encounter any of the men in black?
Actually, yes, but in no connection with my time travel on Mars experiences. Actually, what happened was, in the summer of 1968, my father and I were watching a New York Mets baseball game in the living room of our home in Morris Plains, New Jersey, and a huge lenticular craft came over the neighborhood. We heard it was making no sound, but we heard the three multiple rotor helicopters that were escorting it. Size reference to, let's say, if the ET craft was about the size of a pelican, the helicopters would be about the size of mosquitoes or bumblebees. And they were escorting it on a Philadelphia to New York vector. And my father and I looked up at it, and I asked my dad what it was, and he said, I don't know, son, but I can tell you this. It wasn't built by any country on this planet. And he was an informed observer. He was essentially an expert witness of what he was viewing, because my dad was one of the co-developers of the ramjet. He actually designed the metal alloy by which the ramjet would be built at Curtiss-Wright. He was sent there in October of 1952 to help build the ramjet after the famous July 1952 overflight of Washington, D.C. By 9 ET crafts clocked at traveling at 7,000 miles per hour by Langley Air Force Base in Virginia, and also seen to be jumping around in the sky, indicating that they had a teleportation capability. So my dad was brought into the classified work of the defense technical community at that time, and would go on to work on a number of other very sensitive classified projects, including the B-70, which was going to be the atomic power source equipped strategic bomber. We then walked home and watched the rest of the baseball game. That was on a Saturday or Sunday. It was the summer. The next Tuesday morning, two men in black came to the front stoop, the front door of our house, and briefly questioned my mother as to whether we had seen anything strange in the neighborhood. And they were right out of the Men in Black literature, with the Blues Brother clothing, the dark suits and hats and the strange demeanor and so forth. My mother then returned to her housework, and I stepped out on the front stoop and watched them approach every family all the way up the street. Go to every front door and repeat their brief interrogation of our neighbors, as they had done, asking my mom whether we had seen anything strange. So I did have a Men in Black experience as a child around the time that I was initially placed in Project Pegasus, but I don't believe it had any connection to my classified work for the government. I think it was just a MIB encounter related to that overflight.